important and ongoing communication.
Ms. Smith, many complain that central services is overstaffed. Do you agree or disagree? And as a board member, how will you ensure that resources get to schools and classrooms?
First of all, the first thing that the sitting board did was to cut about $1.5 million out of the central office staff budget. It is not heavy. I can tell you that people, and Ms. Roberts was one of our staff members, there are very few days when the midnight oil isn't burned by a central office staff member. Those people work extremely hard to deliver services to the schools, without which those schools would not be as productive as they are. Central Services is a service organization. The mechanics who make the buses run, the people who keep the lights on, the gas people, all of those service people are doing a yeoman's job making our school system the best it can be. They serve the teachers, the curriculum and instruction department, the ISD department, all of those testing, things that are mandated that we have to have the support to get done. Otherwise, those burdens go into the classroom and the classroom teachers have to do them. So the central services has been reduced. We didn't fill 2 positions in the last iteration of superintendent selection. It is not overstaffed. It is helpful people. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Sutton, what kind of relationships are you willing to build with the business community?
Well, being a pharmaceutical rep, you have to build relationships with doctors, nurses, receptionists being the first one. They're the gatekeepers. What I would like to do is take the education that it takes to be a pharmaceutical rep, the skills that they provide us as far as relationship building, and take that into all of our communities, because every single business is different. You have to interact with people that may have been at Harvard, and you've got to get down to your country store owners as well, and you've got to understand where they're coming from and what their needs are, but also that just being able to speak to them where they can understand what we're trying to do on the school board and what we're trying to do for every student that's in Johnston County schools. I would go out there and just listen and let them talk to me, because God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth, and that was to listen more than we speak. And I think it's very valuable at this point in time that we find out what the business owners are hearing from their customers, and then let's sit down and discuss that in a further matter. But if we're not taking what we hear from the business owners and we're bringing it back to the board and discussing their issues, we're doing ourselves an injustice, because we're not growing Johnston County Schools as we need to grow it to carry it to the future, because every student's not going to go to college. So we need to prepare them in 2 different ways, and we need to listen to what the business owners are telling us.
Thank you. And Mr. Wooten, what will be your top 3 objectives if you're elected to the school board, and why are these important?
I think that one of my top objectives is to continue to increase CTE education, getting back to how we involve the businesses in the county. We got to increase the relationship with local biotechs and Caterpillar and ag services, bricklayers, carpenters, to increase the CTE education program. This fire program that the board presented and approved this last board meeting is going to be great. And in fact, a letter went out today to all fire chiefs that this program is going to be housed at Clayton High School and Smithfield-Selma High School. That's how we really connect to the business community. That's one thing that we need to do a better job and increase the CTE education. The second thing is growth. I was just talking to Mr. Strickland, our board chair, this afternoon about the number of housing permits that are being built in the county, in the western part of the county, and the eastern part of the county as well. We're a growing county. We're the second fastest growing school system in North Carolina. How are we going to manage that growth? And I think we'll go back to transparency. We got the best relationship with the county commissioners we've ever had as a school board, and that was developed over the last 8 years of the current sitting board. and I just got to two of my points, but that relationship and transparent relationship is vital for continued growth in Johnston County.
Starting round 3, Ms. Grant, as a board member, how will you ensure that the information provided to you is complete and represents all perspectives?
Well, communication is key, as so many of us have said already, and getting the perspective of other board members, reaching out to our county commissioners, listening to the teachers, administrators. I've sat in on PTA meetings, I've met with some of our principals, I met with one of our county commissioners to understand the bond process. Most of us are going to be new. We have an awful lot to learn, and it's going to take a lot of learning to know what we don't know. We have a good idea of what we already don't know, but once we start learning, there's going to be a whole lot more that we need to understand, and we'll have to rely on some of our school board members that are current members to mentor us and to help us understand, and then, like I said, reach out to the community, the parents, the teachers, and anybody else, listen to their concerns and bring those back. And then as a board, we have to collaborate. And if the board will reach consensus. We may not all agree on something, but whatever the board decision is something that we will all have to abide by. So we have to rely on each other and trust those that are giving us the information.
Thank you, Ms. Grant. Ms. Hamrick, what is the most important issue that is motivating you to seek election to the school board, and what is your plan to address your concern?
I actually have 2 young daughters that are in the Johnson County school system, so I as a parent understand what I go through, what other parents go through on a daily basis. I have lots of family and friends that also work in the school system with various jobs, and hearing their experiences and what they go through has motivated me to run and do everything I can to be a person that the public can go to, whether it's the students or the parents or the faculty, the staff, anybody. And just making sure that my children have a good education to continue to grow up in. The schools have been phenomenal so far. And I have one child that gets a lot of assistance and needs a lot of assistance. I have another child that is very advanced for her age. And I just want to make sure that every child has the opportunity to go off and be what they want to be. I know that there was another part of that question. I'm sorry.
That is fine. So the most important issue motivating you, and what is your plan to address this issue?
Thank you. One of the other parts that I believe in is volunteering in the classroom, being hands-on and helping out these teachers. I just had a friend post on Facebook a receipt where she just spent over $400 on supplies, and we're only a few weeks into school. And one of the things that I want to work towards is classroom allotments. I know some teachers
I'm going
get
to
it.
have to cut you off, Ms. Hamrick, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Mr. Jennings, as a school board member, you will be responsible for some difficult choices, especially related to funding. And it looks like you're getting the budget questions. Name one area where you'd like to see more funding and one area where you would like to cut expenses.
Okay. More funding's pretty easy. Summer just touched on it. Hear stories all the time. You know, resources, supplies in the classroom. You know, how do we find out? We get our teachers together, we get our support staff together, we talk to our principals, we find out what are the simple things we can take care of right now. You know, what are the things you need? What are the things we can fix? What are the supplies you need? And let's go ahead and address it. You know, what are those things going to make teaching easier and make our kids learn even better? If we were going to cut something right now, I got to be honest with you, I don't know what to cut. I don't know where we would zero in right now to start cutting anything without some good feedback from the other board members and talking to our parents, our town council, our county officials, people like that. Like we talked about, it's a big budget. We never seem to have enough. But I think the way that you deal with your budget questions and anything you're talking about funding is you start to kind of look at 4 areas, and those being, what have we got that we need to improve? What do we need to get rid of? What are the things we're doing well that we need to keep doing? You know, what are the things we could do better, and what are the things that we're not doing that we should? And if you can get those 4 questions answered, then maybe that helps you along the way of deciding what you do need to increase funding better and what you do need to cut. So that's how I would tackle those kind of items.
Okay. Mr. Johnson, education, business, and community are all connected. If elected to the Board of Education, give a specific example of how you would work with chamber associations to improve the image of Johnston County Schools.
Very good question. I want to implement, and I got it right here, I just turned to it, a 2-year degree curriculum-based co-op program for business administration. This will be a 2-year degree in business with a work experience program. This goes beyond the More with 4 program that allows you to get a 2-year degree in 5 years and graduate high school. It would provide 1 block of business-based curriculum and co-op course through a local business, such as Chick-fil-A. Students could train for a management position while they work at an entry-level position with a local restaurant, print shop, gym, florist, etc., whatever their interest is. And they could have a curriculum suited to their program where they can have the work experience, because so many times, I graduated with a master's degree in business. I don't have a day of experience at a bank. But if we can get these kids a 2-year degree plus entry-level experience, that would be a way to connect education, business, and improve our students' way of life. I've got 33 seconds, so the firefighting academy went over so well, and I see 4 board members in the crowd. I want to tell you about another idea I have. It's called an intramural activities league, and it'll be a sports and activities league for students sponsored by local businesses to raise scholarship money for the participants. This may be for kids that fell a grade behind that aren't eligible for athletics. This scholarship money that will be provided by local businesses will be applied exclusively at JCC, so these kids aren't getting in debt if they decide to go to college. I've got more information, and you have to listen to me for 1 second, so see me after the debate.
Ms. Roberts, how will you build a consensus and support in the community around the work of the school district, and who do you bring with you to the table?
Building consensus and support between the school system and the community.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. This is what I love, is building consensus and connecting people. So how I would do that would be to work with my fellow school board members, obviously, because, we would be one of 7. I would be one of 7 people. So I would hope that I would walk the talk and truly persuade my fellow school board members to do the same thing. By building consensus, you start with listening. You start by listening. You have conversations. You ask pertinent questions. We don't know it all, and so involving our retired principals, our teachers, those who work for the school system in terms of building consensus, we have to listen to each other. And the only way to build consensus is to have conversation and to ask pertinent questions. And so that's how I would go about doing that, with, of course, along with my fellow board members. And once again, like Summer tonight, what was the second part of that question, Mr. Burrow?
The second part was, who would you bring to the table to build the consensus and support?
My fellow board members, people who work for the school system, of course. Our superintendent is a fine gentleman who we are very lucky and blessed to have.
And I'm going to have to cut you off,
All
Ms.
right.
Roberts. Ms. Smith, in an era of more limited financial resources, how will you enlist support for bond issues or public school spending from conservative voters or taxpayers with no children in the public schools? And how can the school board prove itself accountable to these citizens?
First of all, education is the economic driver. People understand that without a good school system, there will not be economic growth. That affects everybody. So senior citizens who have no children do understand that we still must have a good school system. They do have a dog in the fight. Our way of convincing them is, one, we've had no tax increase for all the bonds that we've passed since 2008. There has not been a tax increase. the fiscal conservative motions that the board has undergone to make our one school system repeated several times. We use the same plan over and over. We saved millions of dollars. Our last school came in $1.5 million under budget. Those are the kinds of things that engender trust from the community, so that when a bond issue is necessary, everybody says, this is a good thing, and it will not affect my pocketbook. That's how we have been able to have great new schools and hopefully another bond issue to take care of the excessive growth that we're getting again. We are back up to the 2008 growth levels. If you've seen the planning board, you know it's coming down the track, and we've got to be ready to build new schools, again, with no tax increase. Thank you.
Mr. Sutton, what new directions are you willing to bring to the board to ensure that more of our students are able to find work in Johnston County when they graduate?
Well, I think first of all, we got to look at the vocational programs again. The CCP and CTE are doing a great job, but as Mike said earlier, we need to go back and have classes, auto mechanics, brick masons. I was just speaking with a gentleman earlier tonight. My son is a senior at North Johnston High School. He's not going to college. We need to prepare these students for a trade when they get out of school if they're not going to pursue further their education. My son is high functioning autistic. We accept that. But at that same token, we want him to be able to provide for himself when he gets out of school. So we need to sit down and make sure that each individual has the same opportunity to do something in life to better themselves, whether it's that's going to college, or if it's being the best brick mason in North Carolina or Johnston County, wherever it may be. But we need to continue to work with these students and let them know that we appreciate them, we love them, and I want to be an advocate for all children and a voice for the parents of Johnston County. So by telling them that and being sincere about it and having the passion, I believe that we can touch each student that comes through Johnston County schools and make it a better place for them to graduate and settle down and have families here.
Thank you. Mr. Wooten, I'm going to bring out the high school student in you. How do you personally use social media to promote and provide information on Johnston County schools?
Well, that's the easy one. Since, the 8 years we've been on the board, it's been very transparent. Johnston County school website, if you have not been to it, I encourage you to go to that website, and it was actually recognized as a grade A with the John Locke Foundation. It's very resourceful information. Board members, if you want to be entertained, our board meetings are put on the website for a couple of days after every monthly meeting, and it is very entertaining, but you get a lot of information out of it. We have a lot of great, highly qualified teachers giving curriculum information in those board meetings, giving data for all our schools. Smithfield-Selma School just had great, excellent data with the SPLASH program in Selma. So, as a high school student, I have to teach my 13-year-old to teach me how to navigate through my phone, or when I lock it up, she fixes it for me. But you're right, high school and middle school and elementary students are high tech, and they use data at a great expense to my data bill I had to pay every month. But they do use social media, but we got the best website in the world to find out what's going on around our school system. And I encourage everyone to go into our schools to see what's going on with the great education our teachers are giving our students each and every day. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, candidates, this one is for all of you. You're all going to be answering the same question. It's kind of a long question, so I will repeat it twice for you.